Hey, shalom. Glad you guys are here. Welcome to Gary, Stephen, Betty, Pastor Bruce, Vicky, Troy, Julie, Steve, Tet, Mentat Assassin, Annie, glad you're here, and Brooke. Shalom, everybody. We're going to continue our study in Exodus today, and I just want to start with a psalm for our prayer. So let's see. Okay, I'm thinking I may sing this one. I felt led to share with you the Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. That's a psalm for the Sabbath day. Now, that doesn't mean you can't say it on other days, of course. And if you follow the weekly and monthly readings, it doesn't show up on Shabbat even, right? So on those cycles. But I'm going to sing this to you the way that my Rabbi Jacob taught me when I was younger, and he was taught by his Rabbi Max Rothkopf. It's a nice Ashkenaz melody. Shalom, Elizabeth and Esther. Some of you know this already. Shalom, Brenda. Glad you're here. Hey, send me a PM when you can, please, on over on Telegram. Quite concerned for you. All right, so if you like it, maybe you like the melody. So we will both say our opening prayer and sing the psalm at the same time. Mizmor shel Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ולזמר לשמך העליון להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות עלי עשור ועלי נבל עלי היגיון בחינות כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך במעשה ידיך רנן מה גודלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, איש פער לא ידע, וכסיל לא יבין את זאת, בפרוח רשעים, כמו עשב, ויציצו כל פועלי האבן, לשם דם עדי עד, ואתה מרום. לעולם אדוני, כי הנה אויביך, אדוני, כי הנה אויביך. יאבדו יתפרדו כל פועלי אבן, ותרם קירם קרני. בעלותי בשמן רענן, ותבט עיני בשורה. בקמים עלי מרעים, תשמענה אוזני, צדיק אתה מה יפרח, כרז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו, יפריחו. עוד ינבון בשיבה, דשנים ורענינים יהיו להגיד, כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולתה בו. Okay, so that is the song of the Sabbath day. Yes, there's healing into healing, I believe it. Amen. Shalom, Jonah and Frank and Alec. Glad you guys are here. So this song, just briefly, our tradition tells us, you know who wrote this psalm? Anybody know who wrote it? Some of you know, but if you don't know, you'll never guess. Adam Rishon, Adam the first man, apparently wrote this psalm with all the evil that he saw in the world. Why is it that the wicked, they bloom like grass, they bud like the grass? Why? It is to destroy them till eternity. The psalm, it answers all the really big questions, you know. For it's like the grass, and they blossom out all the doers of injustice. It is Lahisham Dam, to destroy them, ad de ad, forever and ever. And we have a name for God in here, a new name that you might not be familiar with. Ve'ata, but you, Marom, the one who's on high, is Marom. That is a divine title for God, one of the less known ones. They are Amba Adonai, for eternal, O Adonai. Or you can interpret this as the one who is from eternity, right? The one from eternity, right? He's always existed. Oh Adonai. All right, I got to stop before I talk about the psalm. There's so much to talk about in the Tehillim. It's very strong and powerful. So, and I hope if you don't do it, you'll start adopting the tradition of praying some of these psalms, the Kabbalat Shabbat that we do for Shabbat. I think you would really benefit from that. Everybody can benefit from that. All right. So tonight, let me see what verse we left off at. Exodus 21, verse 7. Okay. 21, verse 7. Do. There we go. Okay. All right. So make sure I got it right. Okay, let me show you. So if you have one of these all Hebrew Tanakhs, here's Kaf Aleph, that's 21. And then this is telling us the Torah portion. It's in its Mishpatim, judgments. These are the decisions. Usually this word means the decisions that are made by the judges, the religious courts, right? Because we're commanded in the Torah to appoint religious judges, to have religious courts. And they decide halakha. If something's unclear, how the commandment should be kept, they decide it for us. That is a command from God, right? So to do that, to set that up. All right. And it can be as simple as, it can be a few elders. They can be designated as a religious court. And even the smallest court, for some issues, you can have just two. And this is what it means when Yeshua says, wherever two and three are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them, meaning he's giving his authority to that religious court. All right, Zion, great name. That's verse number 7. And it says, V'chiyimcho ish et bito le'amah. By the way, we're reading from the Tanakh proper tonight because the graphic novel, it's just all a bunch of text. Okay, so there's no benefit, right? Okay. V'chi. Now, if yimko, makar is to sell, the yod tells you it's he. So if yimko, he will sell, and the subject follows, subject coming up, ish. So if a man will sell, et points to what's going to be sold. Who's sold? Bito, his daughter, his bat, the bat of O, okay, his daughter. Le'amah, to be an amah. This is a word that's hard to translate, okay? So we have a couple of words in Hebrew that mean maidservant, right? The most common ones are shivcha, and this word we have right here, amah. Okay, sometimes it comes off as uma, right? In Ashkenazi, omo. Right? But anyway, they both get translated maidservant, right? Or a servant who's a woman, something like that. But this is not precise. Really, what it is, a shivcha, this is a virgin servant, okay? So she's never been touched by a man. And in the old ways, she would work for the woman of the household. She would not work for the man. She usually wouldn't even be alone in the room with one of the men from the household, one of his sons or the men. She would just be given orders by her mistress. Okay. And then you have the amah. The amah, the root is actually which means mother. In modern Hebrew, imah is mother, right? It's the aleph and the mem. So I think I usually translate this like mommy servant. The idea, and a shivcha can become an amah. This is what happens with Hagar, right? She's a shivcha originally, and then when she's given to Abraham to be another wife, she becomes an amah. And even Sarah uses the term derisively. My son won't inherit with this amah and her son, right? So it's recognizing that she's no longer on the level of just a shivcha. She's now like, we don't really have this in today's society, so it's hard to have a word like a mommy wife, something like that, okay? Or a servant wife, something like that. All right. Lo teitze ketzeit havadim. Lo, not. Teitze. This is from yatsa, to go out. Yeah, please read Pastor Bruce's comment. Thank you for that. Yatsa is to go out, but this is with a tav in the front. So it's still third person, but it's feminine. So lo teitze, she will not go out. Ketzeit, like the going out of ha'avadim, of the slaves, right? So even though she's been sold to this man, okay, if she does not become a wife and her time period is up and she goes out, it's not the same as when others go out. You understand? It's not the same situation. The Torah is making sure to understand that she is not a slave. This is a different kind of office, this amah thing. Okay? Verse Chet, and actually I'm going to get a drink real quick. You guys can kind of look ahead while I'm having my. Hope that wasn't noisy. All right. Verse Chet. Imra'ah, if evil. Evil. So raah is the feminine form of evil. And I've talked about this before. Evil in the Bible doesn't always mean evil like we think in English, right? At least in modern English, right? Dr. Dwayne pointed out one time that actually in the Victorian English, they do use evil the same way that the Hebrew does, right? So, like, some evil may befall someone, right? Meaning like a catastrophe, right? A calamity, right? A tornado or something, right? So, in older English, they would actually call that evil. But today, when we say evil, we usually think of like, someone's planning some devilish thing. That's not what it means in Hebrew. It can mean that. It's got different nuances, right? But it can also just mean something that's bad for a person, right? This helps a little bit when you understand this, that ra'ah can mean something that's bad for a person when we're told that King Shaul, King Saul, was tormented by what? A ruach ra'ah me Adonai, an evil spirit from the Lord, right? That sometimes causes theological problems for people. But when you understand what it really means in Hebrew, a spirit that's bad for people, right? Maybe like a tormenting spirit or a spirit assigned to hurt somebody, to punish someone for their sins or something like that, right? That spirit loves God. You understand? Because I've heard pastors talk about before, like, oh, it's you know, even the evil spirits have to listen to him, and it's not like that. No, that's not what's going on. What's going on is that that spirit loves the Lord, and it's assigned a task, and it goes to do the task. You see, it's one of his servant spirits. It's not evil. It's bad for people. Evil. You see? Okay, great. Corrupting spirit. Interesting. That kind of sounds like it's a tempter, right? Like the Yetzer Hara. I don't like that one so much, Ted. Yeah, it's an interesting question. All right. If evil, and that's a feminine form, so we know this is referring back to the amah, the girl who's been sold to be a mommy wife, okay, or mommy servant. Einai, this is from ayin is eye, and einayim is eyes. They drop the mem, it means eyes of, right? Einai of yod. The yod is me. So in my eyes, oh, I'm sorry, that's einai. I didn't look at the file. In the eyes of, there's no suffix. In the eyes of Adoneha, the Adon of Ha, the master of Ha, her Adon, her master, okay, her boss. Imra'ah be'enei Adoneha, asher lo ya'ada vehefda. Okay, in the eyes of her master, who lo has not. By the way, you'll notice there's no cholim here, but there should be. Who has not ya'ada appointed her. He hasn't assigned her. That means to one of his sons or to himself. Vehefda. And redeeming her, the idea is like selling her, is really what it's saying. Le'am nochri. To an a people, nochri, a foreign people, lo yimeshol. It shall not rule over, it shall not rule. This is the same root where we get the word for Proverbs, mishle, right? But it can have to do with ruling over, or that's kind of a different meaning over there, right? So a mashal is like an enigmatic expression, right? Like Yeshua was always telling mashals, right? People had to think about it. What does it mean? Something like that. So shall not rule. So the idea is he shouldn't give into that. Okay, he's not supposed to do this. Lemochra, to sell, to sell her. bevigdo va, in betraying, with his betraying, bah, against her. This is infinitive absolute, pardon me, just an infinitive construct, pardon me, from bagad. Bagad is to betray, which is interesting because from this verbal root we get the word beged, which is clothing. Right? So maybe the idea of like changing your clothes, you talk to one person a certain way, then you change your clothes for somebody else. I'm not sure how it developed, but you can kind of get two words for the price of one there. Bagad is to betray, and beged is clothing. Oh, and a boged is a traitor. So three words for the price of one, if you like. Boged is one who bagads, right? So bait is when or in, betraying of him, meaning he's the one who's doing it. So when he betrays, bah, against her, when he betrays her. Okay? So he's not allowed to sell her to a foreign people. All right? Really not supposed to either sell any of the Hebrew slaves to foreign people either. Verse Yod, that's 10. Im acheret yikach lo. Okay? Now this is a situation where she has been elevated, she's been assigned. She's married to him or to one of the children of the household. Okay? So if acheret. Now this was one of our Hebrew words of the day. We had the masculine form of this, didn't we? I think yesterday we had acher, which means an other or another, or it can also mean behind, right? Another. This is just the feminine form. So if an acheret, so this means if another one, like meaning another woman, yikach, that's from lakach, to take. The lamed is hiding there in the kof. The yod tells us yikach, he will take, lo, for himself, which means marry. Lakach, it can mean different things. It can mean just take, but it can also mean to marry, right? So in context, so if he marries another one, okay, so he still has her as a wife, and he takes another one, she'erah kesulta ve'onata lo yigrah. Okay, she'erah. This literally means her meat, right? So it's her provisions, her food, the food of her. Kesulta means the covering of her, so her clothing, right? Her raiment, I think some of the older translations call it. The onata. This one's a bit harder to translate. This is like her conjugal rights, like her rights to sleep with her man. Lo yigrah. He shall not garah. He shall not diminish. He shall not make them smaller. So what the Torah is saying here, it's protecting the woman. And this is really a great commandment because a lot of times when people see the commandments regarding polygamy, it seems like, wow, how is that fair? Especially if you're talking to a secular person, that a man could have multiple women, but a woman can only have one. And, seems like women were treated like cattle or something. No, they weren't. They were protected. You see this protection here? If he takes her as a wife and he takes another wife, she has a special protection. He can't even stop sleeping with her the same amount as he slept with her. That's what the onata is. He has to give her the same conjugal rights. So he cannot reduce her food, her clothing, nor his sexual visitations to her. He can't say, well, I've got a new wife now. I used to sleep with you 7 times a week. Now I'll just sleep with you 3 times a week because I got a new one. We got to share to make it even. And it's interesting. I used to watch, like some reality TV or whatever. I admit, I used to watch reality TV, and one of them was about this Mormon family. I don't know if you guys ever saw it, the Sister Wives. And don't watch it anymore. For years, I haven't watched it. But anyway, in that show, I was struck on how unbiblical their practice is. Because he explained to one of them that he loves all his wives equally, he treats them all equally, he gives them equal time, blah, 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 and all that stuff. He's with a certain one on one day and a certain one on the other day. But look what the Torah says. The Torah says if he takes another wife, he's not allowed to reduce her conjugal time or her clothing or her food, which I really think the clothing, food, I think this might even be a merism, meaning anything that she's got, he can't reduce to her, right? He can't reduce her allowance or whatever he's doing, right? So the Mormon variant of the Jewish polygamy, it seems like it's wrong the way they even do it, right? Even if we were like have a time machine and see what things were like back in the past and today. So really his first wife, who interestingly has left him now, right? By the way, I don't mean to Lashon Hara, but I'm not even saying the guy's name. Oh, I remember his name now. But anyway, I'm not happy that happened to him. I'm just saying maybe had they followed the Torah and he hadn't reduced what she had, right? For sure, she felt like a second sort or something like that, right? The first one is the most powerful one, right? She should have it all, right? And then anybody coming in after that realizes the situation. Although some would argue that this is just in the case of a purchased wife, an amah, right? A servant wife. So, there could be some pushback on that, that maybe they didn't really have to treat the first wife in this way if it was an actual marriage, because she was protected by the divorce, alimony, all this stuff. Anyway, let's see. Uh, Vicky says we skipped half of verse 9, did we? Oh, yeah. All of verse 9. How did that happen? Thank you, Vicky. Verse 9. V'im livno ye'adena. And if to his son, the ben of, oh, thank you, Vicky, keeping me on my toes, ye'adena, he will assign her, kemishpat habanot ya'asela. Kemishpat habanot ya'asela. Then according to the judgment or the justice of the daughters, ha banot. Bat is daughter, but banot is daughters. You might think, how is that? Well, in Arabic, I think daughter is binta, right? So we kind of have like a snapshot into what ancient Hebrew had it as. So there used to be a noon in the ancient Hebrew, right? So bat probably was bent or bant originally, and then that noon just got assimilated. But in the plural, it never disappeared, right? So it's not so weird that the noon is there when you kind of understand the history of it. Ya'asela, he shall do to her, right? So in this case, if his son marries her, then he treats her like a daughter, right? Why do we need this verse in the Torah? Because she doesn't have the regular ketubah protections that a normal wife has. The marriage contract that protects her in such a way that if she gets divorced, the husband has to give her all this stuff, basically alimony. He has to pay alimony, right? That's what's in a normal marriage contract. You can read all about this if you're interested in the Talmud Tractate Ketubot. It's all about ketubot, marriage contracts, and all the different situations. Very interesting, all the different situations, how much the mechir, the bride price is for a virgin, and the divorce price if she had been a virgin, and how much it is for someone who's not a virgin, how much for a convert. It's really interesting stuff over there. Not all of it's interesting, okay? So any given page of the Talmud has the right to be very boring so and dry. Just FYI, you've been warned. Um, what else about that? So here the Torah is giving her an extra protection. You can't just treat women like chattel or something, right? So even in the case that she's not like a full normal wife where maybe she came from a wealthy family and they demanded, certain provisions in the marriage contract, still she will be treated like a daughter, right? If he doesn't marry her, if his son marries instead, right? Okay. So maybe this made sense, especially in an agrarian society. You got a big family, but you don't have like it's not so easy to meet people like today, especially if you're in a big city or something. So you could have a guy with like 5 sons, and he takes his alma, one of them will like her, something like that, right? Okay. Thank you again, Vicky, for pointing that out. All right, now we are on verse 11. Okay, let me just get a drink real quick. Feel free to ask any comments or questions. So funny that this verse came up after some of the topics we had in the apologetics room recently. It's very, I think it's very interesting that how ahead the Bible is compared to other books of antiquity, right? God is making provisions for a polygamous society to protect the rights of the women, right? To make sure that they're not just, abused and put out there or whatever, right? I mean, to go as far as to protect her conjugal visits, he can't reduce the numbers of days he sleeps with her. I mean, that's quite a protection. And this is what, 4,000 years ago? I mean, that's just amazing. Amazing. You take other polygamous societies and look how they treat the situation with multiple wives. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. I mean, in the Quran, they're told to beat them. It says, beat your wives. And there's even teachings that from the religion of peace that talk about like if you're worried that one of your wives might become disobedient, then you should beat her. It's like a preemptive beating. It's like you don't find that the Torah never talks about beating women. There's nothing like that in there. It's it's much more moral situation we have the God of Israel presenting this than a corrupted religion coming along later. Hey, Shalom Yakar. All right, continuing. Verse Yod Beit. Keep me on my toes, Vicky. If I skip another one, let me know. Makei ish vamet mot yumat. Okay. It just says ish, a man, make. This is from the verb nacha, to strike. So a man strikes. Oh, I am skipping again. Look at that. I even told Vicky if I skip, tell me. Verse 11, Yod Aleph. Ve'im shalosh ele lo ya'aseh laha ve'yatzeh chinam ein kasef. Okay. Okay. So after the three things, if the guy takes another wife in addition to her, then he can't reduce her food, her clothing, or her conjugal visits. But if the im shalosh ele, three, and we've had this in our word of the day, three, there's a sign language for three, is shalosh ele, these. So if these three things, lo ya'asela, he does not do for her, right? So maybe he lowers her clothing budget, right? Or he starts feeding her tuna instead of lox. Wait, what? I can't remember lox in English. Lox, bagels and lox, salmon instead of salmon. Or he doesn't sleep with her as much as he used to, right? Then the yatzah chinam ein kasef. Then yatzah, she will go out. Chinam means without anything. Ein, without kasef, meaning whatever money she was sold for to the father. Let's say the guy takes her, and then a month later, he does decide to promote her to wife level. She's a wife, not just a servant. And then a month later, he gets another wife. And then he can't do those three things. If he can't do all those three things, she is allowed to divorce him. She can leave. And they don't have to pay the money back that the father got for selling her. It's kind of like a mechir, kind of like a bride price, right? Doesn't have to be paid back, right? So look how the Torah protects the women, right? She's, because sometimes people think, oh, back then, the societies, there weren't any women's rights. There were. He couldn't treat her wrongly. If he did, no matter how much money he gave the father, she can go out, chinam, without anything, ein kasef, without giving any money back. No silver, without silver, literally, it says. Okay, okay, verse 12, that's Yod Beit. Okay, I already canted, I won't cant again. Makei ish, a man striking, okay, is really what it says. Vomet, and dies. Okay, so, okay. So it's saying, okay, I'm sorry. This is an active participle, so sometimes you got to see the rest of the verses, how to translate it. Okay. One who strikes. An active participle can be translated this way. Makeh, that's like a striker. A striker of an ish, of a man. It can mean either thing, right? It can be a man who strikes, or it can be a striker, like I'm doing it now. One who strikes, ish, a man, vamet, and he dies. And we've had dead also, right? Remember? We had get met, it pays, right? Mate, dead. That was one of our Hebrew words of the week, of the day. And he dies. He got met. He got the life insurance from met. Mot yomat. So this is that situation where we have the same verb twice in a row, and the second one is conjugated, like changes forms. Then the first instance of it means indeed, surely. Surely yomat. Yomat is a passive. It means he will be made dead. It's a pual. He will be made dead. So mot yumat. He shall surely be put to death. Mot yumat. You'll hear this again and again in the Torah, right? There's an adulterer, mot yumat. Indeed, shall be killed, right? Shall be executed, right? Someone is a known Sabbath violator, right? Breaks the Shabbat, mot yumat, death penalty offense, right? I think I shared with you in a Jewish cemetery, Sabbath violators, Mechalelei Shabbat, are not allowed to be buried, right? So I know at least one Beit Din person at one Messianic organization who cannot be buried in a cemetery, in a Jewish cemetery, because they are a violator, Mecholel Shabbat, a Shabbat violator. I won't say names, but I know somebody who's a clear violator. So, all right, verse Yod Gimel, 13. Vasher lo tzadaha, vehaelohim innah leyado. Okay. Vasher lo tzadah. Okay. And one, actually, you guys have no questions yet? I just realized I'm blowing through these kind of fast. Am I going too quickly? Can you give me some feedback? I'd like to know if it's if it's too much. Other than skipping verses like before. Nothing really? All right. Let me get a drink real quick. Okay. Here we go. Vasher lo tzada vehaelohim. Vasher. Now one or and one. Asher. It's the relative pronoun. This can mean like who, or it could be like which or that. Sometimes it can even mean when. Okay, Julie says the speed is good. That's good. Yeah, sometimes it can even mean when, like uh so what's another meaning for Asher? Sometimes it can mean even um then, right? You have to be very flexible. It can mean all kinds of things, right? So yeah, Asher. Lo, you know this one? Not. And this time we actually have it pointed with the cholim there. I don't know what that was previously in today when we had it without the cholim. Was that like a mistake in the printing, or is it really just in the text like that without it? But anyway, not sada. So sada, this is kind of weird. Sada is like hunt, hunt. Betty says if you went at my speed, we would never get through. I've actually had an idea to make some different immersions. Like I'm not sure if I'm going to do it yet or not. I've just been brainstorming like what else we can do to help people with their learning. So we have the live immersion, and then I was thinking about like after the fact making like just pre-recording, so there's not the interaction, but it's still pretty fast because I won't have to check comments and stuff. Like a very slow version of the immersion, maybe just like half of it or whatever, right? What we covered half, like going at a very slow, very low level, and then if I had time, recording like a faster one for like more advanced people. So you'd have the normal live immersion, which is for everybody, and then we'd have like recorded versions of that. I don't know. Maybe give me some feedback if you think that's a good idea. Okay. So tzada is to hunt, right? So, but if he didn't hunt, this is talking about the makeh, the one who struck somebody and the guy died. Lo tzada, if he didn't hunt him. Also, we have another word from this that comes from tzada. It's seda. Seda, very similar, means provisions, right? Isn't that kind of interesting? So you got your provisions, but then we actually have hunting, okay? So, but if that one, that's the asher, lo tzada, didn't hunt, and we have to imply him. He wasn't hunting like he didn't waylay him. That's better. Like he didn't waylay him. Vehaelohim, but it was ha-Elohim. It was the God, Julie's saying grammar classes. Innah. Who, innah? Okay, so this is interesting. We have the word ana, not the request, not the ana, eli, kem, not lebi, not that one. But we have the verb ana, which is like to happen. And you see the dot in the middle noon? This Piel means it's stronger. It means like made it happen, right? So, but it was, and usually in Hebrew, especially in the Torah, not in poetry, usually we have the verb first, and then we have the subject, right? You've seen that, right? Vayomer Hashem, and then said God, right? So we usually have the verb first and the subject. If you move that order and you put the subject first, the one who's doing the verb, doing the thing, there's emphasis, right? So look here. Here we have the verb is innah. It's like make happen, like makes it happen. But the subject came first. But it's ha-Elohim. It's the God who made it happen. The God made it happen. You see, as opposed to Asher, just the ish, the guy, right? So Vasher lo tzada, but the one did not hunt. Vehaelohim innah, but the God made it happen. Liado, to yad is hand, right? Of o, meaning the man's hand. Like so, basically, God put the circumstance. This guy was a real jerk. Oh, Christian likes it. Okay, great, great. He's a real jerk, and the guy comes up and he just sucker punches the guy who the court is looking at now, and the guy turns around, punches him right back in the same way, and at that moment, boom, he dies, falls to the ground dead. Okay, so it's saying He wasn't hunting him. He didn't go out angry. He wants to find that guy and give him a beat down, right? Open up a can of whoop ass or something, right? Instead, God delivered him into his hands. It's like death by heaven is what the sages call this, right? So he was executed by heaven. God used this man as his instrument to execute the rasha, the wicked one, right? Okay. That's what it means by his hand, delivered to his hand, like made to happen to his hand. Yad can also mean authority or power, right? Unto his authority or power. Sorry, it's kind of worded weirdly. V'samti lecha makom asher yanus shama. Okay. V'samti. Then, you guys have had this word. I think you've had seam, right? Seam. Seam means to set or to place. Sometimes it means give. I like for students to learn seam together with Natan, give, right? So Natan, like the prophet's name, Nathan, Natan means to give. Most of the time it's to give. But sometimes, less frequently, it means to set or to place or to appoint. Seem is the opposite. Seem usually means set, appoint, place, and then sometimes it can mean give. You see? So those words kind of go together, right? So, seem is what we call a hollow verb. That means the middle root letter is a vav or a yod. In this case, it's a yod, and it disappears a lot of times. And you're left just with the seen and the mem. Can I niggle? Oh, hard to wiggle that finger. The mem. I'm always trying to be careful when I show you guys the three root letters because I don't want to say like, well, the first root letter is gone and end up like flipping you off or something. This is a bird-free zone. Nice, Christian. Baruch at achot Brenda. Very nice. He said, blessed be you, sister Brenda. Very nice. Good job, guy. Okay. V'samti. Samti means I set, a placed, assigned, or gave. The vav changes the time, right? To make it imperfect. Now, imperfect can be future or it can be like an ongoing present thing. So this is a situation that could happen all the time. Repeatedly. So v'samti, but it is I who placed, who gave. The E at the end makes you think of E in ani at the end, right? Lecha, to you. Makom, a place. Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw the rest of the verse. I will assign for you a makom, a place. Asher. Now, I was saying asher can be so flexible. Now it means where. Where, right? So it can mean which, who, when, then, where. Up here we translate it as like the guy, right? Okay, meaning the ish. Okay, but now it's where. V'samti. Then I will give lecha to you, makom, a place, asher, where, Janus, not the Roman god. So nous means to flee, like to escape, to run away from a dangerous situation. And the Yod tells us it's he, Janus, where he can flee, Shama. Sham means there. Shama means like towards there. So literally the text says towards there. He can flee towards there. Okay. Any comments or questions? Oh, we're covering a lot of ground tonight. Let me get another drink. Okay. Excuse me. I just realized I have a high gain microphone. I hope you didn't hear my burps. Anyway, I apologize if I did. Verse Yod Dalet 14. Not skipping any verses. And this will probably be the last one we do tonight because look, it's pretty long. Okay. The chi, but chi, if Yazid ish al ra'hu lehorgo ve'orma. Okay. But if Yazid ish. Okay, Yazid. This is an interesting. Not only is it an Arabic name, but it's a word that means usually to boil, like to boil and cook, like to cook lentils. We'll use this word, right? There's other words too, like bashal is also to boil, bishel, pardon me. And but the idea is it's getting really hot, right? So like seething, right? Oh yeah, it's to boil with a little bit of water, right? Like you're not like tons of water and the lentils floating all around, right? It's a little bit of water, just so that's seethe, to seethe. Good, good, good. But if Yazid ish, A man seethes, right? So this is imperfect. It doesn't mean he will seethe. It means he seethes al against rehu. The raah, the fellow of who? Of him. His raah, his fellow. People always translate neighbor. I think neighbor is a terrible translation. It has nothing to do with being neighbors. One could be from one city and the other from another city, right? It's his fellow, right? His fellow, meaning another Israeli. Yeah, simmer or seed. Yeah, simmer's good too. That's right, Gary. Thanks. Simmer. Yeah, simmer would be good. Yeah, but if a man simmers against his fellow, lohorgo. Harag means to slay, to slay. So you might be wondering what's the difference between this and kitel or lamutz, or lirtzoach. So lirtzoach is like to murder, right? With intent. It's an illegal killing, right? Harag is like to do manslaughter, right? So I'm saying to slay, but the idea is I don't know how to make it sound good in English with like one word or something. To do manslaughter, basically, right? We'll just say slay. Does English have that feeling of slaying not being murder? I think so, right? Slay. Anyway, Santa on his sleigh. It's not really murder. He's just murdering their souls. Sorry, lehorgo, to slay. Oh, to slay him. Right. So he didn't seethe. A man didn't seethe against Rehu, his neighbor. Lehorgo, to slay. Oh, him. The with orma. Now this is the word that is used to describe the serpent when it says it is orma. It's more crafty than other creatures, right? Orma is like craftiness, like yeah, craftiness. That sounds good. With craftiness, with craft, right? Or like intention. Hold on just a second. I have a relative trying to reach me. Said, stop telegramming me, please. Okay. But orma. There's an there's a better word here if anybody can think of it. Usually this word is used like okay, guile maybe. It's got usually a more negative tint than just craftiness, like I said. What's crafty but like a little it makes it sound negative. May aim. Ah, okay. May aim mizbechi tikachenu lamut. Okay. Ma'im from aim from with mizbechi. Mizbeach means altar. The e means of me. So from my altar, tikachenu. Lakach is the verb. It's hard to recognize, right? Wiles. Okay, Wiles sounds good. Yeah. Not exactly what I was looking for, but still Wiles works. Yep. Oh well, it's bothering me that I can't think of it in English. So the tav at the front means you from atah. So this is a theoretical tilkach, right? And the lamed went inside the kof. So tikach, you shall take nu, him. In this case, it's him. You could interpret as, that, yeah, it's got to be him. Lamut, to die. Okay. And this happens in the Bible. Who can remember? Okay, my relative. Okay. Who can remember where this happens in the Bible? No, not really Wiley. Wiley's not the one I'm looking for. It usually says the servant is the most. The serpent is the most whatever of all the creatures. Can't think of how they put that into English. All right. Oh, that's the end. Okay, we're at 44 minutes. Yeah. Ah, we can do one more. 1 minute. This one's quick. Umakei aviv